If you're just about to buy a 7-seater compact MPV people carrier, stop and think for a moment. Wouldn't a compact estate with occasional fold-out third-row seating suit your needs rather better? It'd certainly be more cost-effective. That's precisely the proposition on offer here from Peugeot's much improved, smarter and more eco-conscious 308 SW. Things have changed since, but back in 2008, while other car manufacturers developed compact MPVs with seats that slid, folded, reclined, tumbled and generally contorted into a fantastical array of interior combinations, Peugeot watched from the sidelines like a schoolboy who'd left his PE kit on the kitchen table. Back then, car buyers striding into one of the French manufacturer's showrooms, looking to be stupefied by the latest feat of MPV interior origami, would have been pointed in the direction of this car, the 308 SW. Not an MPV, but a compact estate with a couple of extra seats in the boot. The disappointment for many must have been tangible, but customers who stuck with it and gave this model closer consideration often concluded that it really did have something to offer, and it still does. Today, Peugeot is a very different brand with plenty of purpose-built MPV options, but for many families, this 308 SW would still be a better fit, especially since it was significantly improved in the summer of 2011 by a far-reaching range of enhancements that have made it smarter, better equipped and more cost-effective to run. Let's check it out. Motoring journalists like me often assume that everyone will like the usual MPV driving experience with its glassy cabin and high-set seating position. Not everyone does, and if you're amongst those who'd like something a bit more conventional, but still occasionally need to transport up to 7 people, then this 308 SW will suit you just fine as a driving companion. I would though suggest that you steer away from the most feebly powered petrol and diesel variants. This is, after all, anything but a light car as models in this class go, which means that the 98 PS 1.4 litre petrol and 92 PS 1.6 litre HDI diesel versions can struggle a bit if you're pressing on. Best then to go straight to the mainstream 308 SW models, both that have 1.6 litre power, a 120 PS VTI unit in the case of the petrol version, and 112 PS 1.6 litre HDI in the case of the diesel. Now, the petrol is a willing enough unit. It makes rest to 16.5 seconds on the way to 121 miles an hour. But most interest has centred upon the variant that I'm driving here, badged eHDI, in recognition of the clever technology that it champions to push down running costs. Now, we've seen eHDI technology with this same engine in other Peugeot and Citroën products, but it's usually been matched to a rather jerky EGS semi-automatic gearbox. You can have the EGS system here, but the difference with the 308 is that you can also opt for the 6-speed manual transmission that I'm using, which may be a little less efficient, but is ultimately a lot more satisfying. A reasonable 244 Nm slug of torque means that this eHDI variant shouldn't be one that 308 SW customers will have to row along with a gear stick, and it's probably the best all-round choice in the range. You can pay more for a 2-litre HDI model with 150 brake horsepower, and that's able to cut this eHDI variant's 12.3 second 0 to 60 showing to 8.9 seconds. But in real world terms, the performance doesn't feel that much greater in the 2-litre diesel, and it's certainly not enough to justify a considerably inferior set of running cost figures. The extra torque of the 2-litre HDI might be useful though. It's 325 Nm if you're regularly piling weight into your 308 SW, or perhaps making full use of the extra third row seating. Handling characteristics are geared towards family owners rather than driving enthusiasts, with lightish steering and an overall emphasis on refinement. As far as suspension is concerned, well, there are certainly softer riding compact estates and small MPVs than this, but very few that deliver a better overall ride and handling balance. And just because you can't throw this thing around on its door handles with any great satisfaction doesn't mean that it can't deliver driving pleasure in other ways. Faced with a set of twisting, undulating bends, this car really does display admirable composure. And as you might gather from what I've said so far, it simply loves long cross-continental type journeys. Were I to be faced with something like that and have to do it in a car of this kind, then the Peugeot keys are probably the ones I'd reach for first. This may be a compact estate, but it's less compact than most, as it has to be to accommodate the 2 extra fold-out seats you can have fitted into the estate compartment. But before we get on to the practicalities, let's check out the aesthetics. The 2011 styling updates have brought this car a shorter nose, a smaller front grille, a more compact front bumper, sleeker headlamps and extra splashes of chrome, all of which combine to create what Peugeot hope is a more cohesive premium feel. Something that's certainly aided by these extra flared wheel arches that incorporate now these LED daytime running lights, arranged to try and imitate the claw slash of a lion, apparently. Take a seat inside and there's a real feeling of quality. The door shuts with a satisfying clump, cosseting you in an interior more upmarket than you'd expect a focused class vehicle to be able to offer, with chrome ring dials, soft touch plastics and slivers of aluminium creating an upmarket feel. Even the optional sat-nav lies behind the kind of retractable cover you'd expect to find in a luxury car. Now, the original 308 was the first modern era Peugeot to offer this kind of interior quality, and it's since been replicated on models further up the company's range. Behind the wheel, where it's easy to get comfortable thanks to a height adjustable driver's seat and a steering wheel that's adjustable for both reach and for rake, there's a real feeling of space in the tall cabin, accentuated by the low fascia and a windscreen that's pushed well forward. Someone's really put a lot of thought into making this a very relaxing place to spend time. The controls are nicely damped, the dial faces are a cool white, it's all very soothing. And there are lots of MPV-like touches, this drawer under the front seat, for example. You can even have a fragrance file fitted to the ventilation system, able to dispense all manner of exotic fragrances, everything from exotic vanilla to sweet air. In the back, the panoramic glass roof that you get on all mid and top spec 308 SW models really is a signature feature, extending back behind the heads of rear seat passengers to create a very airy feel. And for once, this is a Focus family hatchback class vehicle that can seat 3 adults properly on the back seat. That's because there are 3 individual seats here, not just one bench, and they all can slide backwards and forwards, or you can push the middle one forward to create a picnic table type arrangement. And talking of picnic tables, they're here installed in the seat backs together with integral cup holders. That should keep the kids happy on longer journeys. Now, the estate compartment benefits from a wheelbase increase of 100mm and a rear overhang increase of 124mm, so that customers who want to specify the 6th and 7th third row seating can put it in here. Now, I've chosen not to in this case to make the most of a 600-litre luggage capacity that is bigger than supposedly larger estate cars like Audi's A4 Avant. If you do put the seats in, then treat them as kids-only positions. Adults really won't want to be in these seats for more than really short journeys. Now, you've got all the usual estate car bits here, elasticated straps, load lashing eyes and so on. But the real benefit of this whole arrangement is how modular it is. You can rearrange the seats in a variety of different positions depending on the load you have to carry. If you need to carry really large loads, removing all the seats will free up to 2,149 litres of fresh air.
Let's put this into perspective. If you want 7 seats in a purpose-designed compact people carrier, you're looking at having to budget anywhere from £18,000 to £20,000 as a starting point, and often a lot more. It's an awful lot of money, which is why this 308 SW could make more sense. After all, even after you've added on to its price the extra £500 or so that Peugeot will charge for the 6th and 7th seats to go in the boot, you're still looking at a saving of anything between £1,300 and £2,500 over a 7-seat compact people carrier. Those respective figures based on model for model comparison with Peugeot's own 5008, that's £1,300 more, or Ford's Grand C-Max, that's around £2,500 more. So it stacks up. You're looking at paying the same kind of money for one of these as you'd pay for a 5-seat Focus-sized estate or a 5-seat ordinary compact MPV like say a Renault Scenic or a Citroën C4 Picasso. It's all such an eminently sensible proposition that you wonder why makers of other Focus-sized estates don't offer the 6th and 7th seat option. It's probably because their cars aren't big enough. There are 1.4 and 1.6 litre VTI petrol options with this car, plus a turbo THP 1.6 litre petrol engine, but these are minority choices. Most 308 SW customers will want diesel power. Ideally, the 112 bhp 1.6 litre HDI that I've been driving here with its green-fingered eHDI tweaks that will benefit you even further if you can bear to mate them with the rather jerky EGC semi-automatic gearbox that Peugeot offers as an option on this car. It is possible to buy a less powerful diesel, a 92 brake horsepower 1.6 HDI, or a more powerful diesel, a 150 brake horsepower 2 litre HDI, but neither of these really offer significant benefits in terms of running costs or speed over this 112 bhp eHDI option. It's easily the pick of the range. All variants are decently equipped, coming with air conditioning, a decent quality CD stereo with steering wheel controls, remote central locking, electric windows and mirrors, a trip computer and driver's seat height adjustment. Bear in mind though that the entry-level trim level doesn't include the panoramic glass roof and the third row seating that together really make this car what it is. Safety provision standard across the range includes 6 airbags, plus ABS with electronic brake force distribution to make it more effective, and brake assist to help in emergency stops. Plus there's ESP stability control. All of which justifies a strong showing for this car in Euro NCAP safety testing, where it scored 5 stars out of a possible 5 for adult frontal crash protection.
Peugeot is proud of the fact that some of the best aerodynamics in the class have been achieved with this 308 SW. The resultant drag coefficient factor of 0.29 might mean little to most buyers, but the slippery shape and fuel economy advantages should strike a chord. Almost every fashionable type of technology has been thrown at this car in order to drive running costs down, but as usual you won't find most of it fitted right across the range, with the really high-tech bits being reserved for the variant that I'm driving here, the 308 SW 1.6 litre eHDI. This is a variant that uses what Peugeot likes to call micro-hybrid power. Now don't be confused by that, this isn't some kind of Prius type hybrid. Instead the terminology refers to a 5-volt supercapacitor which stores electric power and along with a reversible alternator helps the car's standard battery restart the engine when the standard stop-start system cuts it, when you don't need the engine in stop-start traffic or when you're waiting at the lights. Now, this whole system can lead to fuel savings of as much as 15%, so that this eHDI model, when fitted with energy-saving tyres, can return up to 62.8 miles to the gallon on the combined cycle and put out as little as 115 grams per kilometre of CO2. You can improve upon those figures still further by opting for the EGC semi-automatic version. And to help you get close to them in day-to-day running, there's a gear change indicator on the dash. Now, you won't improve upon these figures by opting for the entry-level 92 brake horsepower 1.6 litre HDI diesel, and you'll certainly suffer in comparison with them if you go for the top 2 litre 150 brake horsepower diesel 308 SW. That particular variant manages 55.4 bars to the gallon on the combined cycle and 134 grams per kilometre of CO2. But what about if you choose a petrol 308 SW model? Well, both 1.4 and 1.6 litre VTI petrol models return around about 44 miles to the gallon on the combined cycle, and they put out anywhere between 144 and 159 grams per kilometre of CO2, depending on the particular trim level and gearbox combination you choose. If you want to go for the top petrol model, the 1.6 litre THP Turbo, you're looking at 40.9 miles to the gallon on the combined cycle and 159 grams per kilometre of CO2. Insurance groupings range between 10 and 20 on the 1 to 50 grouping scale across the range, and residual values, although they won't be the strongest in the sector, they have risen of late, thanks, Peugeot says, to the eHDI technology, which has improved them by up to £1,500.
Peugeot dealers must be relieved that they no longer have to persuade family buyers that this 308 SW is some kind of people carrier, as was the case back in 2008 when, unaccountably, the French brand had no compact MPV on its books. It isn't anything of the kind, of course. Here's a Focus class compact estate car that, almost uniquely in that class, offers the option of 2 extra boot-based folding seats. A very good idea, isn't it? After all, this kind of car is a great deal closer to the type of vehicle that most buyers actually need. Most of them don't require 7 seats all the time, and when they are called into play, the extra capacity won't be for adults. I've got 3 young children and they often want to bring friends home from school. For families like mine, this kind of thing would be absolutely ideal, especially since this 308 SW has been improved with sharper styling and lower running costs. If you're about to sign on the dotted line for a C-Max or Scenic class car, just think for a moment. Wouldn't something like this make more sense? If I were to be shopping in this sector, I'd be giving it serious thought.